Welcome one and all for this session on Basic Psychological Processes, Module 2, Session 21. In continuation with the previous session where we discussed about genetic and environmental influences on intelligence, in this session we will explore the extremes in intelligence. Therefore, the learning objectives of today is to understand the extremes in intelligence, which is mental retardation and giftedness. By the end of this session, student will be able to understand the extremes in intelligence and how to tackle them. Extremes in intelligence. Mental retardation. It is a condition of limited mental ability in which an individual has a low IQ, usually below 70 on an intelligence test. It is classified as mild, moderate, severe, and profound. Some of the causes of mental retardation could be organic retardation. An example for organic retardation is exposures to environmental toxins. Another cause of mental retardation is cultural familial retardation, examples of which are fetal alcohol syndrome and Down syndrome. Other contributing factors include certain genetic disorders. Individuals are classified as having an intellectual disability if they score below 70 on a measure of intelligence, display deficits in adaptive functioning, have impairments in at least two areas of functioning, such as self-care or social skills, and experience the onset of one or more of these factors before age 18. The most common causes of intellectual disability are fetal alcohol syndrome and Down syndrome. Individuals with intellectual disabilities face both personal and external challenges in life. In addition to challenges in cognitive functioning and daily living, people with intellectual disabilities are often stigmatized and devalued by society. Intellectual disability can be defined as a significant limitation in an individual's cognitive functioning and daily adaptive behaviors. Disabilities can manifest themselves as limited language, impaired speech, or difficulty performing academically. For many centuries, intellectual disabilities was poorly understood, and so diagnosis and treatment were negligible. Until 2013 release of the DSM-5, the currently accepted resource for diagnosis and mental illness, the term mental retardation was still in use rather than intellectual disability. Now let us understand the types of intellectual disability. They are categorized by their severity. Mild, which is approximately 85% of individuals with an intellectual disability fit into this category. These individuals are often able to acquire 6th grade level academic skill. They also often have the skills necessary to live independently and hold a job, but may need assistance if under unusual stress. Moderate. About 10% of people with intellectual disabilities fit into this category. These individuals benefit from social skills and vocational training. They can often learn to travel from place to place independently and hold an unskilled job with supervision. Thirdly, severe. Only 3 to 4% of individuals are in this category. They may be able to perform some work with supervision and can often function in a community, living in a group home or with their family. Lastly, profound. Approximately 1% are in this category. These individuals have fundamental mental impairments and need optimal care, which requires a structured environment with one-to-one supervision by a caregiver. Now let us discuss some challenges caused by intellectual disability. Individuals living with intellectual disabilities face both personal and external challenges in life. A child with intellectual disability may learn to sit up, crawl, walk, and talk later than other children. Individuals with intellectual disabilities may experience difficulty learning social rules, deficits in memory, difficulty with problem solving, and delays in adaptive behaviors such as self help or self care skills. They may also lack social inhibitors. Everyday tasks that most people take care, such as getting dressed or eating a meal, may be possible, but they may also take more time and effort than usual. Health and safety can also be a concern. For example, knowing whether it is safe to cross a street could pose a problem for someone with an intellectual disability. The exact combination of challenges varies from one person to another, but it typically involves limitation in both intellectual and daily functioning. Society itself also poses challenges. People with intellectual disabilities are often discriminated against and devalued by society. This has improved over the 20th and 21st centuries, but many individuals with disabilities still face being stigmatized in everyday life. Person centered planning seeks to address this problem by encouraging a focus on the person with intellectual disabilities as someone with capacities and gifts as well as support needs. The self advocacy movement promotes the right of individuals with intellectual disabilities to make decisions about their own lives. Another extreme in intelligence is giftedness. People who have high intelligence quotient, usually above IQ of 120 on an intelligence test, fall under this category. Criteria that characterize gifted children include precocity, independence, passion to master, and other criteria include measures of intelligence, creativity, and achievement, as well as interviews with parents and teachers. Often, the decision of how to identify gifted individuals is left up to school districts. A child whose cognitive abilities are markedly more advanced than those of his or her peers is considered intellectually gifted. Gifted children often learn faster than their peers and work independently. Schools face the challenge of how to handle gifted students academically in order to keep them challenged and engaged. Gifted programs can be beneficial by keeping gifted children engaged in learning and providing them with opportunities to discover their full potential. Gifted programs can be detrimental by labeling children as either gifted or not gifted, which can in turn create self fulfilling prophecy where not gifted students do not put forth the same effort and therefore are not as successful. Therefore, understanding the advantages and disadvantages of gifted programs can help use them effectively. One way schools may handle this issue is to allow a gifted child to skip grades. The advantage to this solution is that the child will be doing coursework that is appropriate to their cognitive level. The potential disadvantages, however, are substantial. Younger students will experience physical development later than their grade level peers and may experience emotional development later as well. This may lead them to feel self conscious about being different or to be bullied by their peers. Another solution is to keep the child in the regular classroom but provide additional assignments and an enriched curriculum. In addition to the enriched curriculum, another option might be pull out programs where the child leaves the classroom during certain times or days for advanced classes. Finally, some school districts create entire gifted classrooms. Gifted programs can be beneficial to gifted children by keeping the child engaged in learning. Some programs even offer gifted children college level credit for advanced placement classes. These programs can provide the child with right opportunities to discover his or her potential. Summarizing the session covered extremes in intelligence, that is, mental retardation and giftedness, the classification of mental retardation, and criteria that categorize gifted children. The references have been mentioned, and students can go through these books to get more information. Thank you.